Marky Mark's Woodshop 101.
Well, hi there. Welcome to Marky Mark's Woodshop. And I'm Marky Mark.
And I'm Amber.
And the next job I have to do real quick for the next chore ahead of me is I came across the number 5 plane for all of $12, but I'm just going to go over it, sharpen the blade, and make sure it's usable. So the first thing I want to do is pop this puppy apart, and I've unscrewed the frog, which will sit there, and twist that off and take our frog out. And things we're going to need is sandpaper, a very thin ruler, and things I'm going to look for is fit, finish, rust. This unit's not particularly rusty. It's a little dirty, which I'm not going to worry with too much at the moment. I just want to sharpen it and get it going. So you'll see me do a couple of things. I'm going to sharpen the blade. I'm going to flatten the surface. Ooh, it's got a burr on it, which needs it. On the this is the chip breaker. This is the cap. That's the frog. This is the body. Front ball and the tape. So. And it actually looks like our handles are plastic. This is a Ward's unit. These were made by Stanley, but they cut some corners here and there. Instead of nice rosewood handles, I got plastic. No big deal.
This was a bargain find, so.
Yeah. So before I get started, question mainly for the guys. So Amber's been ragging me about my little jacket or flannel or whatever I wear in the shop. You know, I like this because, well, it's broken in, obviously, and, you know, it's a little tattered and stuff, whatever, but it's a shop, and, you know, if I got to take it off and use it for an oil rag, I can. Obviously, I'm not going to wear it out to dinner, and she wants me to, I don't know, use it for rags or whatever, and I think it's just perfect for the shop. So, I really need some comments and input on this. Help me out. And back to the plane. So I'm going to start with the sole, actually. I need some rough. Let's see where we're at. Doesn't look that bad. Yeah.
How do you check to see if the sole is good or not?
With a straight edge. It needs to be flat. There are several areas that are critical: the front, the back, and around the throat where the blade protrudes. Another thing about the throat is it's a common area. You might see little cracks there. That would not be good, and it needs to be square. This one's very square, which tells me it probably hasn't been used that much. It's had, you know, obviously it's been used, but it's in fairly decent shape. However, whoever had this seems to have done a couple of things. They seem to know what they were doing, where they beveled just slightly the front and the back, which makes working it a little easier. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm just checking the sole here for flatness. And well, it looks flat. I can see some daylight through it. Is it a problem? Well, let's see. I have some feeler gauges here. This one happens to be 38 thousandths of an inch. It doesn't go in. So I have one here that's 2 thousandths of an inch. So it won't go in. So that's pretty flat. Even though I can see a little daylight through it. And seeing the daylight kind of concerned me. So we can proceed to really sharpen the blade as well as flatten the chip breaker. Tune-up. I've had to flatten the chip breaker here. Unfortunately, they chrome plated. Some of it was peeling, and I didn't have a good flat mating surface against the blade. And you want that because when the shavings come up, if you don't have a good mating surface, they'll actually catch there and clog you up and cause some other nasty problems. This isn't perfect and I need to work with it some more. The angle's wrong on it. However, it's probably good enough for what I need to do with it. And to test this, you want it to be just look at it through the light like that, and if you can see light anywhere along here, that would be bad. So again, it's not perfect. I can see a little bit of light and the angle's not where I want it, but I've got a project that needs to get done. I think that'll be good enough for what I'm doing. Next I got to do the blade, and I think I'm going to put it on the poor man's Tormac behind me for starters, because I just don't like the angle of the blade I'm looking at. So I'm going to start on the machine and ready to go. I've got it set at the angle I want. This is going to give me a good starting point to put a nice edge on it. In fact, this will probably put a good enough edge on it, but the edge is actually on the other side of the blade. I'm kind of squaring it up. I just got it off the wheel. We used a 2500 grit to get it back into place here. It's not perfect, but I'm more worried about the edge down here. It's pretty sharp. However, that's not the part we have to worry about. We have to worry about under here, and that's not what we worked. So what we're going to do is knock some burrs off of here and put a micro bevel on it, which will give us like a fine-tuned edge. So what we need to do is put just the thinnest little ruler you have down there, because we don't want to flatten it. We want to put just a little bit of an angle on there. And I'm starting with 400 paper, which is basically just going to knock the burrs off. And once the burrs are off, I'll move up to progressively 1500 paper, and that should give me a satisfactory edge to get some decent shavings off of.
And there's other ways to do this, like with expensive diamond grinders and equipment and stuff.
I have diamonds. I find that diamonds don't last long because of the glue that holds it on. 3M actually makes an abrasive paper just for this, sharpening blades, and they get very, very fine. I haven't seen it. Regular sandpaper works just fine. And you can put oil and water on here if you want. I don't really find it necessary. I'm sure I'll get flamed for that. Yeah, our edge is starting to take place. That was 400. I think I have some 600. I'm not sure. This is 1500. That's what I want to wind up with. Here's some 600. And I'm really trying to go back and forth, especially on the finer papers. And that's just giving us the slightest micro bevel. And again, this is just a quickie job.
Yeah, you don't always have time to spend days on making your tools perfect. You've got a job and you got to get it done right now.
This is the same way I sharpen my chisels, and if you, after you use them, you know, not just like a quick little cut, but if you're, you know, spending the day cutting out dovetails or just using your chisels, whatever, give them a quick little tune-up on the edge, and you won't have to spend a lot of time like we're doing on this, which hasn't had any attention in a while. One of the things I discovered with the chip breaker, I put it on the wheel when you weren't looking to try and get that a little bit better, but because it's chrome plated, the chrome plating keeps causing a problem where it flakes off and keeps giving me burrs and irregular surfaces. So I will henceforth avoid chrome plated chip breakers. That's a fairly decent edge. So let's put it back together and give it a test. It's not perfect, but for a 15-minute job, it'll probably produce some shavings. So, while I got it apart, I want to check my handles to make sure they're tight. The tights are notorious for becoming loose because it seems to carry the brunt of the force. And these are pretty tight. The screws are a little buggered up, but that's okay.
Boogered up.
Buggered up. It's technical talk.
It's technical
Yeah.
working term.
And I can see the Japanning, which is the finish, is all crinkled, which tells me that maybe some nasty chemicals, gasoline or something like that, was on there at one time. I doubt if they made it like that. I could be wrong. So the first thing I want to do is put my frog back in. That's the base for everything. The frog has a little adjustment screw, and that'll set your blade depth. And I'm not going to screw with the screw. And frogs have 2 screws.
Well, you're going to give this a refurbishing later, right?
Probably when I have more time. Pretty them up, clean them up. Maybe even refinish them, who knows. Or just use them. So the frog has another little adjuster on the back, and this will set your blade depth. So this piece needs to fit in the screw there, and then you can screw it down. If you notice, the frog was slotted, and the adjustment, first screw I showed you, slides the frog on the body. So you don't really want to tighten these screws down too tight. They just need to be snug where the frog's not going to come loose or move around. So just a little bit of snugness. Okay, that's probably fine. So all that's left is to put our blade back together. And we want to do that by putting the screw back in the chip breaker. We're going to put it on sideways, slide it up, and turn it. And what we want is to have the chip breaker about a 16th or so of an inch in front of the blade. That looks good. Just about yay. And then we can tighten that up. I think this may even be the wrong chip breaker. I don't know. It just seems funny to me. I've never seen one bend quite like this. But at any rate, if it produces shavings, we're golden. Bevel down. And we're going to set it on there gently. And our adjuster, which sets the depth, the knob on the back here moves that up and down, and the other one will sit in the groove, which will make an adjustment like that, so we can adjust it several different ways. So, and lastly, the cap holds everything in, and you want that to be snug but not too tight. So, and that can be adjusted with this screw. You just want a little bit of snap when you push the lever down. I think this may be a little loose. Actually that's okay. It may be a hair tight, but I think it is. Because you do need the blade to move with the adjustments. It's just a little bit snug, but that's okay. That's good enough for our purposes. Now the next thing I need to do is take it over on the bench, get a piece of wood, and get it adjusted where I want. So, we can do that. I'm way high on one side and low on the other. So, the way we want to adjust that is take your hammer, give it a little tap. This one's going to need a lot of tapping because it's way out. Almost. And I need to bring the blade up. It's sticking out way far.
Don't do it higher than how you have it now.
Yeah, I can see some problems here. The blade's still not square. I need to spend more time. I may have to put it on a rougher grinder first. It's not doing. What I want. Maybe. Maybe. Well, let's see. Don't think this is going to work, but I'm here. Let's see what kind of shavings we get. A lot of free play in here. Several turns. That's not a good thing. I'm up on wheels.
Yeah.
So the metal is giving me some very fine shavings. I can see the shavings are good, but the blade just doesn't look square. So we're getting good shavings, but the other side is doing nothing, and I don't think I have enough adjustment to take that out. I might, we'll see. It's all the way, but I really need to spend more time on the stone with it. But again, it was just a quickie get up and running thing because I need to plane the project here. And it will probably do that for me, even though the tuning is not perfect. Normally what we want to see is taking a shaving on one side of the plane, which is what we're getting now, little bitty pieces. The other side of the plane, which is taking such a big bite, we need those to be even. And that's just not happening. And I'm out of adjustment for that, I think. But the blade's good and sharp. We're getting nice thin shavings. And that may work for me for what I have to do. We'll see. But I definitely need to spend more time with it on the stone. The blade's just not square. And after you get both sides even, you want the shavings to be pretty even on either side, then you can come down the middle, which is where you're actually going to work from, and that'll be your shaving. This is just plywood I picked out of the scrap bucket. So that's it. That's good enough for right now. One last thing, there are different schools of thought as to how to set your plane down. Some people say don't set it down like that, it's on the blade. Some people say don't set it down like that, it'll knock your adjustments out. Well, I set mine down flat, being very mindful of where the blade is. Like if you notice, I got a little gap here on my end cap that the blade sits in, so I don't have to worry about setting the tool on the blade that's protruding. So that's pretty much it for the very fast attempt at a tune-up on the plane. I'll have to spend more time with it to get it where it actually is a little bit better. But again, I've got some rather large boards to do end grained on, and we'll find out shortly whether this is good enough. And we'll see you again soon. Marky Mark extraordinaire, and while you're there, hit that like button and subscribe and leave a comment. I'm sure you could pick apart my plane tuning. Thanks much for watching. See you again.